What's up, everybody? Welcome to Kinda Funny Games Daily for Friday, May 7th, 2021. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside Press Reset author Jason Schreier.
I love it. Got that
Already.
promo center stage. I got one in the background. I got yelled at by a Twitter account called Rate My Office Space or whatever, Rate My
Yeah.
Zoom, because I took a joke picture that was just the book, like in front of my bookshelf, like 40 copies of the book. And so this account takes it seriously, of course. And suddenly I start
That's
getting
their job.
messages from all these people. Nobody on the internet understands humor. Welcome to the internet where nobody can laugh.
Right, exactly. Well, it's so hard to read tone in anything, so everything's an attack and nobody knows what's going on, and then things get taken out of context. Even your friends are hearing you say stuff on podcasts, not understanding what's happening. I digress.
Oh,
Jason, it has been 1 year and some change since you were on We Have Cool Friends. You were here April 20th, 2020, when you had just announced you were going over to Bloomberg. Of course, lots has happened in your life since then. How has the first year of Bloomberg been?
Yeah, it's so weird, man. Like, I mean, everybody's going through this. Everybody's going through COVID, obviously, but it's so weird starting a new job during COVID and having been there for a year. It's like I kind of understand the ins and outs of the job and the office place and the workspace, but like I also don't, because I haven't actually worked with my coworkers in person, which is so like I was at the office once before I even started during the interview process, but since then I haven't been to the office. I like barely get to see my coworkers. It's just so strange and like different than I'm used to. But like I like it. I can't really complain, and I like being able to work from home. It's just very weird. It's been a very weird year.
Yeah, 100%, right. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Even for us, like, right, of like, it's so weird to not, we hired SnowBikeMike during all of this. And so it's like, the fact that I haven't ever shared an office with him still makes it seem like he's a guest, when it's also like, oh no, this is your full-time job. Like, you're making kind of funny stuff all the time. I just don't think about it.
Yeah. It's so strange.
Obviously, I would assume if you're listening to Kind of Funny Games Daily, everybody knows who Jason Schreier is. But if they don't, Jason, how do you describe yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I am a journalist. I've been covering the video game industry for a very long time now, like something like 12 years. So I don't think quite as many as you, but a long time. And I am the author of a couple books now, Blood, Sweat, and Pixels, and then Press Reset, Runner covering the video game industry, which comes out on Tuesday, May 11th, which I'm really excited about. Man, Greg, you and I both know we're both used to like the world of digital publishing, where you like have a thought and like it takes maybe a day or like a week to get it on the internet. Books, I like had finished most of this book like March of last year. So before my last Kind of Funny appearance, before it was even announced, I had finished most of the book. And it just takes so long for these things to actually get printed that it's excruciating. And so now it's like 4 days away. Oh my God, I'm so excited.
I can't imagine. Yeah. And especially even like reading through it, right? Like when I crack the epilogue and you're like, by the way, I wrote this between these days. And since then you put like a list of companies, including Telltale, where I was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even think about the fact that all of this, you have all these stories in here, right? Of these, what it's like to work on a video game and have your game canceled, have your studio closed. And then of course there's like the biggest example in modern times of like going from, literally the top to ruin, like you're talking about. It was like, wow, I can't imagine like to have this right there. Like, does it feel like a afterthought to you? Does this feel like another life when you were working on this and writing it?
In some ways, yes, but in some ways, no. So what happened was, I finished the bulk of it in March, and then I spent like I was editing it, and it goes through a lot of edits. So like it's edits with my publisher. I send it out to a couple of friends and family for feedback and stuff like that, and then go through various revisions, tons of revisions and fact checking and stuff. But here's what's really interesting. So one of the things, so the book is about, just to zoom out for a second, the book is about volatility in the video game industry, and it's about what happens to people when game studios shut down. And so it tells all these stories about game studios like Irrational Games, the maker of BioShock, and 38 Studios, the wild story of Curt Schilling.
Dude. That was like when I got my copy, that was the one I jumped to. As a big Kingdom of Amalur fan, I had to. And then I went to the Visceral Games one to hear about Dead Space and Ragtag.
Yeah, good stuff in there. And then so wild stories in there. And then so what happened was I knew from the get-go that I didn't want this to just be a book that was like problem. I also wanted to present some solutions and like explore some of the ways in which these problems could be fixed. And so one of the solutions that I was exploring was remote work. And this was February, January of 2020. Suddenly, we start hearing about this thing called COVID-19, and suddenly the world changes and everybody's working remotely. And so what I was able to do was do some more reporting after that. And it turns out, and this was super cool, it turns out that Carrie Gooskus, who's former GameSpot back in the day, and then was at Mythic Entertainment. And so she was one of the people, one of like the main characters of my story, of the chapter of Mythic Entertainment, which is a great story about this EA-owned MMO developer that was forced to make a Dungeon Keeper mobile game that was just absolutely eviscerated in the internet and shut down after that. And so anyway, so Carrie was like one of the people I've been talking to for that story, and she was a main character. And then it turns out that afterwards, it turns out in 2020, she is at Bungie, and her job is to supervise their transition of going remote. And so I got her on the phone and I was like, we got to talk about this because this is so relevant to my book now. And so I was able to incorporate some stuff from COVID, and like people using COVID as a way to work remotely, and just talked a bunch about remote work and how that can be a solution to these problems. Because like, so a lot of people might know, like your average Kind of Funny listener might know that, yeah, there are a lot of layoffs in the games industry, a lot of studio shutdowns. But like I've seen a reaction from people. Sometimes when I report on a layoff, I'll see a reaction that is like, oh yeah, they worked on Blizzard games. They have Blizzard games on their resume. They'll be fine. Or like they worked on The Last of Us 2. They'll be fine, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But and to some extent that's true. Like if you have big AAA games on your resume, you'll probably be able to find another job in the industry. Most of the time you'll be able to find another job. Here's the problem though. If you are at Irrational Games in Boston and you just worked on BioShock and your studio shuts down, you might have to move 3,000 miles away to get your next job. Like you might have to go to Seattle or San Francisco or LA. Like there aren't a lot of game studios in Boston. And same with, even if you're in one of those big hubs, you might have to move somewhere else. And so the biggest problem in the games industry as far as volatility goes is that people just keep having to uproot their lives in order to keep up and in order to keep switching jobs, which you kind of need to do in games. And unlike like film, you are not all in Hollywood, you're not all in LA. So yeah, so that is a huge problem, and I think remote work could really just make such a big improvement in people's lives and like stop so many people from burning out of the video game industry as a result.
You nail it. I think I forget the in the book Press Reset the person's name, but it was when you're talking about 38 Studios and how they went out there to see their old friends. Like they came out with no intention of taking the job. They got there and then saw what they were being pitched and what the game looked like, and this is an awesome opportunity, and uprooted their entire life, moved across the country, did it, and then for everything to go kaput out of nowhere, right? Like that
it's wild. Yeah, man, there was this guy named Andy Johnson who I spoke to, and who is part of that chapter. He was at THQ in 2011, and we all know what happened in THQ. And he was like, he saw the writing on the wall.
Damn you, you draw. Damn you.
Yeah, he was like, okay, this studio is gonna, like, something's gonna happen to this publisher. This publisher is not gonna be okay. I better find an exit plan. And so he found this other job at a company called 38 Studios, and he drives across the country, takes his whole family from Arizona, moves to Rhode Island, and 5 months later he's like out of a job. It's just so sad, so many of these stories. And yeah, I mean, I think this book, I think people will read it, I think it'll really resonate with people. I think it's bleak, but I also think it's optimistic, because I'm really hopeful that like there are a lot of ways that things can change, and like the video game industry can treat its workers decently. Like it's possible.
It's the same thing too of the story you tell, and I know him because the guy who went from Visceral to go to Square and then quit like 3 months in. Do you remember his name?
Zach Mumbach. So Zach Mumbach he's the main character of one of the chapters. His story is absolutely fascinating.
And like his thing of like, when he gets to Crystal Dynamics and he's like, you know what, like this ain't it. I don't want to do this again. And and he quits and goes, and moves to Seattle, right? And he becomes like, it works in an architect firm.
Yeah.
And it's that thing of like him being so like in the interview with him talking about like, I'm just so dejected. I'm at parties and I describe myself as a game developer, but I work in an architect firm. And it's like that fascinating thing that I think when we read the news, especially on Games Daily, or when you read the news on IGN or wherever you're getting your news, it is this idea of like, you hear like, the jobs are gone, right? And he talks about like in Visceral, he knew the Visceral thing was happening, but everybody going in for the all hands meeting, right? And being told this is done. And you hear that and it's the shock of it, but you don't know what comes next. And so his story, while bleak for sure, I think in the moments, his story of going up to Seattle, working at the architect firm, but then of course coming back to game dev and coming back to indie game dev, right? Where he can work and actually see his family and figure this all out and still be an artist, I thought was really powerful.
Yeah, and my favorite quote from Zach Mumbach is it's something like when he got to Crystal Dynamics, he'd been at EA for like 17 years until Visceral shut down. He moved to Crystal and he looks around and he says, "When I started the industry, it was like all people in their 20s. And now I look around and it's still all people in their 20s. Like where are the people my age?" And the answer is so many of them have burnt out. I saw another stat a couple weeks ago that like is just so indicative of this point of this larger problem. Essentially someone found a job listing site, a game job listing site, and it was like senior jobs were 10 times as many as all the rest. It was like senior jobs 1,000 and then like junior jobs like 10 or something like that. It was ridiculous. It's like these companies cannot keep senior talent and have all these vacancies for senior talent, and that hurts the industry, it hurts the people, and also it hurts the games. Like people don't realize that because it's so the effects can't be measured or anything. It's impossible to say like, oh, Cyberpunk is buggy or any game is buggy because it didn't have enough senior staff and all the senior staff burnt out. Like it's impossible to know that for sure. It's impossible to be able to prove that, but the effects are very, very real, and like the problems with brain drain are very, very real.
Exactly right. It's that experience leak when you lose all that stuff. Like, so much of anybody's job is knowing the pitfalls because you've gone through them before. And when you burn everybody out, what are you going to do? It's this revolving door. And it's the same thing, I think, and it's better now. But at my time at IGN, for sure, it was a similar thing where it was you looked around and nobody, like the people who were old were the bosses and they weren't going anywhere. And so, you had this constant cycle. I always go back to review scores. We're a 100-point scale. No, we're a 20-point scale. You know what? We're a 100-point scale. Now, we're at 20 points. It was like this constant thing of every few years you relived the Matrix, and I think that's a real threat for sure.
Yeah, the parallels between media and games are very, very real, and I thought a lot about them while writing this book, and have talked a lot about them like as I'm being interviewed by journalists and stuff who see a lot of themselves in this. But here's the biggest difference. Unlike media, the games industry actually makes money. Like the book starts off by talking about how video games are making $180 billion a year, and like, I mean, for all of media's faults, it is very much a bunch of scrappy like organizations trying to like the very lucky ones are able to make money off of subscriptions, and obviously like independent organizations like you guys have been super successful, which is awesome to see. But most media websites are not doing super well as opposed to the games industry. And it's like people ask where is this money going, and then you look at how much of a bonus Bobby Kotick just took in, and then you're like, exactly, that's where the money is going. Oh, well, Activision just gave out dividends.
He took a pay cut, and he could still get $200 million or whatever, but he took a pay cut, so
that's true. He did. He cut his salary from like $1.5 million to 750,000. But meanwhile, his $30 million bonus is still intact. Don't worry. Don't worry about it. But yeah, yeah. Jeez,
no, keep going. I'm not going to stop you. I'm just going to say Press Reset.
No.
Coming out Tuesday.
That's okay. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I think it's like a lot of people dug Blood, Sweat, and Pixels, my first book, and I'm proud of that book. But like, I learned so many things while writing that book that I improved for this book. Like, a lot of people were like to me, "Hey, I love the Stardew Valley story," because it was like all about this one person going on this epic journey. And so for this book, I was like, I want this all to be human stories instead of just stories about like the games. And this is very much not a book about the games. There's interesting stuff about the games, but this is very much a book about the people. And like, my hope is that the readers will come away from it knowing the names of some people, not just like the Ken Levines and Warren Spectors who they might have known already, but like people like Zach Mumbach and Carrie Gooskas, who I think that like people will find really interesting. And yeah, I think this book will really resonate with people. And
that's what I love
super
about
proud
it,
of it.
Is that to me, it honestly reads like an anthology, right? Where it is that like, I'm telling you, like when you sent me the stuff and I was reading the cover jacket, I was like, oh, I want to skip to these stories. And I skipped to them and I wasn't like lost, right? It was very much, you can take a chapter and read about the game you care about and then go back and find stuff that you didn't play but you want to know the story about. Loved it. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, Press Reset out Tuesday. You can go get your copy at kindafunny.com/Jason. That'll take you right to the link to buy it and get your copy right there.
Sweet. Do it. kindafunny.com/Jason. I love it.
For now, though, let's talk about there being another Judgment game coming. Yakuza committing to being turn-based for the rest of eternity, and the semiconductor shortage already affecting the Nintendo Switch. We'll tackle all this and more because this is Kinda Funny Games Daily. Each and every weekday on a variety of platforms, we run you through the nerdy video game news you need to know about. If you like that, be part of the show at patreon.com/kindafunnygames. On patreon.com/kindafunnygames, you can write in with your questions, comments, concerns, everything under the video game sun. And of course, you can get the show ad-free and with the exclusive post show we do each and every weekday. However, if you have no bucks to toss our way. It's no big deal. You can watch us record the show live for free on twitch.tv/kindafunnygames, just like OMG Zezus is, Joel Vil is, and Flawlex is. If you're on twitch.tv/kindafunnygames, of course, you have a special job. Go to kindafunny.com/you're wrong. Tell us what we screw up as we screw it up, so we can set the record straight for everybody watching later on youtube.com/kindafunnygames, roosterteeth.com, and listening on podcast services around the globe each and every weekday. Housekeeping, it is SnowBikeMike's 31st birthday, ladies and gentlemen, and to celebrate, we are doing a Twitch Sub-a-thon right after Kinda Funny Games Daily on twitch.tv/kindafunnygames. It's going to kick off with some Warzone, then Tim and I will finally play through. Emily is away 3. You guys can show up on Twitch, you can keep watching, you can keep subbing, and it will keep going and going and going. However, if you're listening to this later and you want to catch up on all the action, you can go to youtube.com/kindafunnyplays, catch the SnowBikeMike Sub-a-thon birthday stream there. Thank you to our Patreon producers, Blackjack and Tom Bach. Today, we're brought to you by Honey, but I'll tell you about that later. For now, let's begin the show with what is and forever will be the Roper Report. Time for some news. 5 items on the Roper Report.
Baker's dozen.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Jason, how much do you care about Yakuza and Judgment and all that?
Man, I feel like I have to give in my JRPG card because like I can never get into this series and I feel bad. I've tried it a few times and just keep bouncing off of it. So the answer, unfortunately, is 0.
Well, too bad. You're going to talk about it right now.
Yeah,
we're talking about.
I'm down.
We're talking about Lost Judgment has been announced, a new Judgment game. I'm reading from the press release sent to me, and yes, I will stumble over all the Japanese words. I apologize. Sega and Ryu Ga Gotoku Studio streamed the announcement of Lost Judgment, the sequel to Judgment. From the studio that brought you the Yakuza series, Lost Judgment weaves elements of detective sleuthing, noir narrative, and action combat into one mystery thriller starring Private Eye Yagami, who, if you played the game, we all know Yagami. We love him. Tak also is what they call him, who defends those the law fails to protect. Lost Judgment launches worldwide on September 24th, 2021 for next-gen platforms, PS5, Xbox Series X and S, as well as PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Lost Judgment puts you back into Tak's shoes as you go through a new crime thing, yada, yada, yada. Lost Judgment keeps RGG Studios' action genre alive. This is important right now. Lost Judgment keeps RGG Studios' action genre alive. We'll get to that in a second. Yagami's master of martial arts, allowing him to stylishly overcome any situation from group ambitions to single takedowns. You're also going from Yokohama to Kamurocho. I know that one from the Yakuza games, but I can never say it. Yagami can freely travel between both cities in pursuit of a case. Yagami's investigation takes him undercover in a high school. He will meet students from all walks of life and get to help them out in subquest titled School Stories that involve various activities such as robotics, dancing, and more. New gadgets, stealth gameplay, and crafty methods of infiltration are just a few of Yagami's new detective tricks of the trade. I had played Judgment at launch, fallen off, and then this year, actually, I was in the mood for a detective game and restarted Judgment about 2 months before they announced the PS5 version, Jason, and I was like, God dang it, because saves don't transfer for some reason. But I really enjoyed Judgment. I still haven't beaten it, but I played way deeper into it this time, and I really do like Yagami and the take of Yakuza's traditional beat-em-up combat into a detective story and all these different things to go out there and find. However, sorry, what do you got?
Well, so I was going to say, so I love detective stories. And I remember when Judgment first came out, I was talking to my former colleague at Kotaku, Tim Rogers, about it because he's way into all this stuff. And I was asking him, like, so how much is this like Phoenix Wright? Because Phoenix Wright is one of my favorite series. And he was like,
Sure.
Not at all. I was like, oh, okay, well, I don't know. Yeah, sell me on this game. Like, I want to give it a chance. I want to keep trying to get into Yakuza and the Judgment world. So sell me on it. Should I get it on PS5?
What turns you off about Yakuza? When you play it, what is the thing where you're like, man, this just doesn't click for me?
I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, I just bounce off it. I just like don't want to keep playing, and it's really hard to know why. Maybe it's just like too overwhelming with mini games, or maybe it's too slow, or maybe it's too, I don't know, maybe it just doesn't hook me. I don't know. It's just something about this world. Yeah.
For me with Yakuza and even Judgment to a degree is the reason I don't play Yakuza anymore, and I reviewed a bunch for IGN and enjoyed them. So it's not that I don't like the games. It's just that it's always, and I know I get yelled at all the time about this, I feel more of the same. And so when I was playing Judgment, that's what I was falling into the trap of you're going and going and going. But like, Jen would come down or she would be next to me while I was playing. She'd be like, I know you've been playing this for hours, but this looks exactly like what you were doing 4 hours ago, right? Because it has that same gameplay loop of talk to somebody and like tick, 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 tick. Then you run off and you beat somebody up in the street and then you come back and talk tick, tick, tick. And it's like you have to be in the mood for that. And that's what I found with Judgment, where when it launched, I was excited. It was the first, I know Yakuza Like Dragons happened since then, but Judgment was the first one that had like an English dub. Like they were, it was this thing that was trying to make it more cinematic. And I started it, but I wasn't in the mood for that pace of a game. Whereas this time around, I was. And for me, it is the idea that I think Tak and his relationship with his partner is super cool. Like that is a human relationship. I like that he's this lawyer that basically the story, and this is the beginning of Judgment. He's a lawyer that had gotten this criminal off, right? And then that criminal went and killed the person that he was, defending them, that the case was about. So like Tak becomes totally disenfranchised with being a lawyer and instead goes off to be a detective. And he's still helping out the law stuff. There's all this interesting story that I think makes him a cool character to follow.
Okay, sounds interesting.
But it is then you're out in the streets doing super kicks and picking up bikes and smashing people in the head with them. It is Yakuza, so it's like it's long too, which is what I was running into. Of like I was playing it and enjoying it, but it did get to that point of like, okay, I'm going after the third pervert in this thing. There's this whole this triangle of perverts that are running around the city doing bad things, and it's like I'm doing the exact same thing and chasing the exact same thing. I feel like putting this down for a while and stepping away, but now there's more coming. So there you go.
Well, hey, yeah.
Here's a question I have about the business. It comes from dhruvenator on patreon.com/kindafunnygames. It says, Lost Judgment was revealed today, and guess what? It has a global launch and coming day and date to Xbox One and Series consoles. This caught me by surprise. With the exception of Yakuza, Like a Dragon, which was a launch title for the Series consoles, it was already out in PlayStation 4 in Japan. It is very rare for these Japanese games to A, come to Xbox consoles the same time as PlayStation, or B, come at all. Do you expect more Japanese games to launch on Xbox consoles the same time as PlayStation in the future? If so, what's going on with Final Fantasy VII Remake? Jason, removing it from like your fandom or lack thereof of Yakuza and Judgment, what's your read on them supporting the Xbox?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this comes down to it being Sega, and I think Sega has a pretty good relationship to Xbox. There have been rumors forever now that that Sega might be next on Xbox's giant, like Phil Spencer's giant list is like Thanos style, like collecting all the Infinity Gems. There have been rumors forever that like Sega was going to be next, that Microsoft was going to buy them, and this is not just rumors on the internet. Like there were rumors in game circles too. None of them ever came to fruition, but there have certainly been rumors for a while. So I wouldn't be shocked if this was more of a Sega thing than like a Japanese industry thing, because I do think that Square and Final Fantasy VII Remake and like Final Fantasy 16 and all that stuff, I think that's more of the trend, and I don't think that's changing until more Japanese people buy Xboxes. And as far as we know, that still hasn't happened. It's tough to know right now like how anything is doing. It's tough to really put on your analyst hat when it comes to the consoles, because every single PlayStation and every single Xbox is sold out because of the chip shortage, because nobody can make enough for any demand. But in a normal world, I'm not sure if like there would be enough interest in Japan for some of these Japanese games on Xbox. But I think Sega is the one that is like, okay, we like Phil Spencer, we have our special lovey-dovey relationship with them, so we're gonna do some of this stuff. And in fact, I wouldn't be shocked if like we started seeing like say other Sega games. I mean, we saw Persona 4 go to PC. I would not be shocked if Persona 5 like came to other platforms. Maybe that'll come to PC, Xbox. I remember hearing when Persona 4 came out, I remember hearing even before that Persona 3 was also going to come to PC. So it feels like this thing where it's like Sega is really just expanding into the Microsoft area.
Yeah, I would assume, right, that especially with Like a Dragon being on Xbox, right, and having such a big push behind it and that exclusivity window, that is Xbox trying to entice Sega to bring more of these games on, trying to build this relationship. And I think they did see, whether it was a big dollar success, they did see a success of Like a Dragon and people talking about that and playing that on Xbox and being excited for it. A lot of people, who got on that train were talking about, like, it was like Gary Whitta was talking about that being on his Game of the Year shortlist. Like he really, really dug it.
Yeah, I remember when, well, it was funny. I remember when we got our review units for the Xbox and PS5, and it was like the
Yep.
PS5 comes with the Spider-Man and like Sackboy and all this stuff. And then the Xbox, they sent out codes for like a bunch of games that were already out. And then Like a Dragon. Like a Dragon was like the
Yep.
only thing you could
When
play.
I got my when I had my test, that was the one I did, and I was like, oh yeah, like it looks, it's a very pretty Yakuza game, turn-based now, and but whatever, it's here it is, it's ready to go.
Yep.
Now, speaking of turn-based, I think this is what I'm going to title the episode too, so I should have brought it up earlier.
Okay.
Like we talked about, Lost Judgment keeps RGG Studios' action genre alive. You might say, what does that mean? Of course, number 2 on the Roper Report, the Yakuza series is permanently going turn-based. This is Matt TM Kim at IGN.com. In an interview with IGN ahead of today's reveal, producers confirmed that Judgment will be RGG's action series pillar, while Yakuza evolves into a turn-based RPG after the success of Yakuza Like a Dragon. Quote, that's right, the two producers confirmed when asked if Judgment represents a continuation of the classic Yakuza style of gameplay, while Yakuza transitions into a turn-based RPG. Quote, the Yakuza series has been transformed into a turn-based RPG. On the other hand, over the years, RGG Studios has accumulated resources and know-how of making flashy and exhilarating action games that are effortless to enjoy. We decided that we should let our signature action gameplay live on through Lost Judgment. I was shocked by this. I didn't see this coming, Jason. Like a Dragon, again, somebody who had played so many Yakuzas and reviewed them, I was like, oh, like a Dragon. It was this Dragon Quest homage. They're doing all these different stuff with it. Cool way to shake it up. I didn't think it was going to become a permanent decision like this. And it's
well, it's worth noting that like a Dragon, I did play a little bit of that, and obviously I bounced off of it, like I said before. But like, it's not like you go to a separate combat screen like an old school JRPG, and like suddenly you're selecting from a menu. Like it feels very actiony. It's a very much like a hybrid of action and turn-based, because like you're picking up crowbars from the street and hammering them, and it just happens to be in turns.
The menu pops up, right, and you select the thing you want to do, but it's right there, and then yes, it plays out just like Yakuza always played out. It looks like.
Right. Yeah. So and I think turns are a cool way. Like I think it's a really cool hybrid system. I liked it actually when I checked it out.
A lot of people did, including, of course, the Don Imran Khan from Fanbyte, formerly of Kind of Funny. He tweeted this today, and I wanted to call him in because everybody knows he's a big Yakuza fan. His tweet goes like this. I am not against it, but they desperately need to balance their battle system better. There was never a reason to change jobs for most of the characters, and endgames and endgame enemies had way too much HP for the damage you were dealing. Of course, talking about it. And that was my takeaway from just my short preview time with it, because I never got into the retail version of Like a Dragon. Playing through it, and Gary talked about this too, I felt like I could put it on autopilot in a way I never could Persona, where I could just hit auto and it would go through and do the thing, and I would move on to the next fight or move on to the next story element.
Yeah, somehow, for some reason, even though I bounced off all the Yakuza games, I played through Persona 5 in its entirety twice, like 200 hours of my life gone through that. There's just something about the vibe of Persona, especially Persona 5, something about the music and the style, and it's just like, yeah, maybe the music of Yakuza never like resonated with me. I don't know what it was exactly, but I love Persona, so hey, at least I'm into one of these giant Japan set like life simulation RPGs.
Well, I think I'm with you, and we always talk about this, of like, for me and Barrett, we go back and forth because I give Barrett shit for not having played through Persona 4 Gold, and he gives me shit for not having finished Persona 5. And it's that thing of, for these games that are such an investment, there needs to be such a special sauce or hooks on multiple levels that grab me and keep me there. And, for some reason, Persona 4 did that. And Persona 3 did too, but that was way back in the day of reviewing shit at IGN on PS2s. But now, like, for Persona 5, I really dug it. And again, I think I've played the first 30 hours twice now. And it's like, I really like it, but eventually I get to that point where it's like, you're sitting there with a plate full of food and then the giant buffet in front of you, and you're like, I'm full. Like I don't need more of this right now. And so my second playthrough my second attempt at playing through Persona 5, Jason, I started taking notes in a notebook. So now when I go back to it, I'll be able to read my notes and pick up the story in theory and know when my job is, what I need to do, what's happening in the story.
Yeah, I dig it. I think it might help for that game especially. I think it might help if and when it comes to Switch. I think that would be the perfect place to play through it all, just because it's easier to fit into most people's lives when you can play it. Well, that was the thing with
Vita, right? And why I do wonder if Persona 4 resonated so much is that it was that perfect. I'm getting on the train to ride back home in San Francisco, and pop, I'd be right to it.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Number 3 on the Roper Report, Resident Evil Village had a hell of a first night. This is Otto Kratky over at GameSpot. The big lady gets big results. Resident Evil Village's debut on Steam is going record-breakingly well, making it a top performer for the franchise on PC. According to Steam stats page, Resident Evil Village is currently one of the top 10 most played games on Steam. At the time of writing, the game was just over 78,000 concurrent players, making it 9th on the list. While being on the bottom end of the top 10 list may not sound very impressive, it's quite a feat considering the competition. The top spots on Steam's top 10 most played games are often dominated by Counter-Strike Go, Dota 2, PUBG, Grand Theft Auto 5, and Rust. It's also worth noting that Resident Evil Village is currently the only single-player title on the top 10 list. Compared to the rest of the Resident Evil franchise, Village is going above and beyond previous player counts. According to video game industry analyst Benji Sales on Twitter, a majority of previous Resident Evil releases only managed to net a fraction of Village's peak player count. Resident Evil 7's peak player count was just a little over 20,000, almost 20.5. Likely because it followed Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6, two infamous entries in the franchise. Resident Evil 2 Remake and Resident Evil 3 Remake have much more impressive numbers, boasting a peak player count of about 75,000 and 60,000, respectively. Jason, are you into Village? Are you ready for Village? Have you played Village?
No, I'm also not a Resident Evil fan, so this is like one banger after another for me. I'm a big, a huge Ace Attorney fan, so like I'm really excited for. I'm happy for Capcom, but I really want the great Ace Attorney already, so I'm waiting for that. But yeah, no, I'm not surprised actually that Resident Evil Village is doing really well. I mean, first of all, everybody got obsessed over the giant lady, and
Sure.
that meme alone like created this virality that I think helped to build some buzz. But the other thing is, I think like a lot of people, I think more people are into gaming than ever before, thanks to the past year and thanks to the pandemic. And also like a lot of people are just looking for new stuff and hungry for new stuff because there hasn't been a ton of it and there isn't going to be a ton of it. So like a new Resident Evil game just came out at the perfect time for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, it's back to like what we're talking about with Returnal and then Outriders, right? Where if you have a game and you are coming out on the new consoles or just a new game that people can get behind, people are stoked to at least be able to talk about something new and have something going on. And yeah, so Resident Evil Village is right there in the same thing. Good to see you doing well on Steam and everything else out there. Go get them, Resident Evil Village. I think the franchise could do better, but I'm also not a Resident Evil fan, so we'll see. Number 4. Nintendo's dealing with this semiconductor shortage just like everybody else. This is Tom Ivan over at VGC. Nintendo has confirmed that the global shortage of semiconductors is hampering its Switch production efforts. The company said on Thursday that it shipped 28.83 million Switch units in its in the last fiscal year, and that it expects to ship 25.50 million in the current one ending March 31st, 2022, which would see the system overtake the Wii to become Nintendo's best-selling home console to date. However, during a press conference following the publication of its latest earnings results, Nintendo president Shuntaro Furukawa admitted the company is unable to make as many consoles as it would like, and that there is an increasing sense of uncertainty about its production capabilities. Quote, due to the global shortage of semiconductor materials, we are not able to produce the products or all the products we want to, he said, via Nikkei paywall. We are doing everything we can, but there is an increasing sense of uncertainty about production plans. Our earnings forecast is based on the assumption that we will be able to secure parts and materials, and if the situation changes, we would like to respond by revisiting it. Jason, how bad is this semiconductor thing going to get?
It is no joke. It's already gotten pretty bad, and yeah, it's going to be worse. Yeah, the chip shortage is for real. My colleagues at Bloomberg, who have been following this and covering it fantastically, and I've been reading some of their stuff, and yeah, it is very real, the chip shortage. And I think this is particularly interesting because we know that the Switch Pro is going to come at the end of this year, unless Nintendo decides to push it back by now. But my colleague at Bloomberg, Takashi Mochizuki, along with some other folks at Bloomberg, have learned that the Switch Pro is coming and have been reporting a lot of stuff on that. And yeah, I'm really interested.
We read those reports all the time, Jason.
I'm so curious to see what happens, because it's like you have the Switch, it is selling gangbusters. It is out at like 28 million in its last, nearly 29 million in its last fiscal year, is out of control for the Switch. That's like two entire Wii U's in just the last year alone. Two entire Wii U's. So yeah, so we got the Switch doing better than ever. We got a new model coming that might like explode because if what I assume is going to happen, if what I predict is going to happen, which is that they release the Switch Pro alongside Breath of the Wild 2, or at least announce them together, then that is going to be like out of control sales. Or out of control demand. And if they can't deliver supply, man, that would be sad. It would be such a bummer if like the Switch Pro comes out this fall and Breath of the Wild 2 is out and nobody can actually get it. Man, that'd be so sad. So yeah, it's a bummer.
That's what my concern is as they go through this. I wonder, if they try to slow down the Switch Pro because they're trying to make up ground here and get there. And because I think as we're talking about right now, nothing's stopping the Switch from selling. So it is that idea of like, do you put out the Switch Pro and put out games just for it? But guess what? You can't even get your hands on it. It's a PS5, Xbox Series X situation.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be games just for the Switch Pro, for what it's worth.
Well, I mean, like boosted, you know what I mean? Where it makes better use of it. Sorry,
that's the thing. Well, it'll be all these people who are like, man, I really want to upgrade. I want to play Breath of the Wild 2 at 60 frames a second, but I'm stuck with my old Switch. I got to play the inferior version. I mean, it's kind of like what's happening now with the PlayStation 5, and a lot of people want PS5s and haven't been able to get it. And yeah, it just sucks. It sucks all around because it's like there's nothing anyone can do about this. There's no one to blame. It's just like a sucky situation. Another friggin' like consequence of COVID just ruining everybody's lives.
Yeah. It's going to be fascinating, though. And yeah, to your point, we talked about it yesterday with the Nintendo financials, right? Is that if they do this the same way they do like the Game Boy family, the Game Boy Color family, if they lump in Switch Pro into that, the numbers this thing's going to put up lifetime are insane because everybody, we were talking about yesterday, everybody who bought a Switch at launch, right, is definitely going to be ready for a Switch Pro. I'm ready for a Switch Pro. Let's go.
Yep. So something I found interesting also in Nintendo's financials was that they talked about putting some percent of their R&D budget on a Switch successor. And I don't think they were talking about the Switch Pro there. I assume they're talking about whatever console is next. Because obviously, I mean, it's been 4 years since the Switch. Of course, they're thinking about what's next. They have like, I'm so curious about what they're going to do here because they could really screw things up. Like they have such a giant install base on the Switch, and for them to just like go and do something completely radically different, like maybe that's something that isn't a handheld, maybe some other weird idea for a console. I think that could be a huge mistake because the Switch has so much momentum, and if they play their cards right, if they handle this well, that momentum could last for like a decade. And it's very not Nintendo. Like it would be a very not Nintendo thing to do just like a Switch 2 that is essentially the same thing and like plays all the old Switch games and is just a giant upgrade. But like I feel like that's what they need to do. Like that's what I want. I don't want another like just console, like TV only console from Nintendo, you know?
That would be a heartbreaker if they went back to just being one or the other. Like I love the power of the Switch, of being able to put it in the dock or pick it up and go with it. Like that's so awesome and so perfect and is so good for what Nintendo does. A company that, for and I'm painting with a broad brush, but doesn't care about graphics and doesn't care about trying to compete with the PS5 or Xbox. Like, yeah, just do that. Stick with that. You have a market there that we love.
Yeah, and it would be just a real shame if they didn't do backwards compatibility and they made us all buy like all the old ports again and like man, Splatoon again for the fourth time. No, it's just like they have such a huge opportunity here to just like carry out that momentum and continue kicking ass. And I hope they do it. I hope that like whatever the Switch 2, whatever the Switch successor looks like, I hope it's more of a Switch 2, even if it's a totally different platform, as long as it's got the hybrid and as long as it plays all your Switch games. I think that would make people so happy, and like they have the potential here to make people so unhappy if they don't do
if they deviate at all from it.
Yeah, man, it's like I don't want to be that guy who's like the capital G gamer who's like, you company must do what I want. I am the consumer. You must bow to my wishes. But like with the Switch, it's just they've done so well with this thing and like been firing on all cylinders for the past 4 years that to see Nintendo just like walk into a rake again, like they did with the Wii U.
They can't. They have to know. It'll have to be a hybrid again, whatever the next thing is. Come on.
Yeah, I sure hope so.
Doug Bowser's smarter than that.
Yeah, Bowser. Yeah, I'm sure he has a lot to say there.
He's the one calling all the shots.
Yeah.
Number 5, Final Fantasy VII Intergrade's 6 months of PlayStation exclusivity. We were just talking obviously about Sega.
Finally, a game I care about. Love it.
Yeah, there you go. Right, we got you in the end. Talking about Sega and their deals with Microsoft. Let's talk about one here with PlayStation from Square. That we go to IGN.com, where Liam Wiseman writes, in a new trailer released today, Square Enix has confirmed that Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade will be exclusive to the PlayStation 5 for at least 6 months. A graphic at the end of the final trailer, in quotes, for Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade reveals that the game will remain exclusive to Sony's consoles for at least the first 6 months after it releases. The trailer also showcases more of the new expanded story of the game, focusing particularly on the new Yuffie character and revealing some of the new boss fights, such as new encounters against Scarlet and a combat-ready new Shinra mech suit. The exclusivity window is not entirely surprising, given that the original release of Final Fantasy VII Remake was exclusive to PlayStation 4 and also had a timed exclusivity deal in place. This approach seems to follow the trend of Sony striking exclusivity deals with Square Enix's big titles, with Final Fantasy 16 and Forspoken all planning to release first on PlayStation 5. It has not been revealed whether Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade will be ported to Xbox or PC after the 6-month exclusivity window. Square Enix does have a history of porting their games to multiple systems following exclusivity deals, however, such as Rise of the Tomb Raider, launching exclusively on the Xbox One and then releasing on PlayStation 4 later. If Intergrade does end up releasing on Xbox systems or PC, though, it wouldn't be until the exclusivity period was up, which would be December this year at the earliest. Jason, should people hold their breath for an Xbox version of Final Fantasy VII Remake?
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if it was like a full package of FF7. But then the problem with FF7 Remake is that then you get to part 2, and is part 2 going to be like PlayStation exclusive also? Who
exactly.
knows?
How long are you waiting for this thing, right?
One of the greatest cons that video game publishers have ever committed is convincing people to cheer for exclusives and like all these business deals that they're making that just exist to deprive games from people, like cheering for Microsoft to buy companies so that they can deprive them from releasing games on PlayStation, or cheering for Sony to strike deals with Square Enix so nobody else can buy games except for PlayStation owners. It's
but
like
if
so
I
bizarre.
own the console, Jason, it's a win for me. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
if I don't, it's a loss for me.
Yeah. Man, it's so crazy. Like, I remember sitting at E3 conferences back when we could actually be in person and seeing people cheer, like when Sean Layden or whoever would come out and be like, and this is only available for PlayStation users, and like everybody goes nuts. Not like the fact that you could convince people to cheer for that. Essentially, you're saying we have paid to deprive this from Xbox fans and PC fans, and like you are cheering for that. You are cheering because we paid money so this game could not be on other consoles.
Jason, they
like,
want to be the best place to play. It's they trademarked it, best place to play, right?
It's really, I mean, look, it makes sense from PlayStation's point of view, and that's why the PlayStation 5 is selling every single unit it moves. But yeah, for fans, for customers, it sucks.
So let me bring in nanobiologist. Actually, the nanobiologist writes into patreon.com/
a real nanobiologist.
Yeah, no, he is. No, he is. He writes in.
I don't know if it's it's a handle. Oh, okay. I thought you were bringing in like someone to talk about nanomachines or something like that. Okay, go on.
Let's hear about the Fox die and the nanomachines. Nano writes and says the original Final Fantasy VII Remake was slated to be exclusive for a year. That year has passed, and we haven't heard any word about release on other consoles. Now, the new Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade trailer says it will be console exclusive for 6 months. Was this DLC exclusivity a way to extend the overall product's exclusivity? Sony and Square have always been very close in the past, but with recent years kind of splitting in the name of Square's profits. Are we moving back to an age of more and more console exclusives from big publishers? Do you see this as a sign that Square is also reverting back to basically being a second-party studio for Sony with some third-party multi-platform games sent to other consoles?
No, I actually think there's a really simple reason for all this, and that is that Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, which of course is like essentially the DLC, the expansion to the game, that's releasing alongside the Final Fantasy VII Remake port to PS5. And what they want to do is double dip on this game and like sell it to a bunch of people on PS5. And so this is just an incentive to buy it on this machine as you get this new thing. And then also it's nice that they offer it as a free upgrade to PS4 owners. So if you own it on PS4, you can get the free upgrade on PS5 and then also buy the DLC separately, which is nice. but this is very much like business, like fifth dimension chess or whatever. This is very much like we want people to double dip. And in fact, I think a lot of like one of the interesting things about the past couple of years is that a lot of companies like release strategy was thinking about, okay, can we release this game before the next gen consoles and then double dip, and what would that look like and how will that look? And I think that like, I mean, I reported the other day that there's a Last of Us 1 remake in the works, and that's going to be like bundled with Last of Us 2 in some way on PS5, and so that'll be that upgrade. I would not be shocked also, and I've heard some rumblings of like other games just getting enhanced editions or whatever. Well, to the point where like we'll see lots and lots of stuff. Just get these companies all want to double dip because it's such a good way to make money. You don't have to put in a lot of money in order to get this new version. You don't have to put in a ton of resources in order to re-release a game on PS5. So that's a lot of the equation here, I think, is just like we want as many people as possible to buy the game and then buy the game twice, or have reached these new people who didn't buy it on the previous console. It's very
exactly
much
what we're talking about at the top of the show, right? Where it's like, okay, why is Resident Evil getting these numbers right now? People are so hungry for something to play. Like this worked out as good as anything could have. Final Fantasy VII Remake, a great game. You know, Kind of Funny's game of the year. We all loved it. Yes. Even me, who has no history with Final Fantasy, I adored that game. And so for it, to come out and double dip, and then let alone double dip, but be like, cool, it's the enhanced version. It's got new content. So even if you last time around, we're like, I'm not a Final Fantasy person. You saw the reviews, you've seen the game of the years, you've heard people talk about it. Here it is, and what else are you going to play? Don't you want something new? There it is.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think it's a smart strategy. And so, yeah, I think that's why they're doing this whole exclusive thing. I'm sure they got some money from Sony out of it as well. And yeah, they clearly have this long-term relationship with Sony, just paying them buttloads of money to keep all their stuff exclusive. And yeah, we'll see what happens. It sucks because like I've wanted Final Fantasy VII Remake on PC since it came out, so I can play it at 60 frames a second and like look gorgeous on my PC screen. But this whole thing sucks. It just exclusivity and paying for exclusivity. It's one thing if it's like Sony funding their own games on PlayStation. Okay, I get that. But like this whole like we're gonna pay Square Enix because we're gonna give them X million dollars so they can only put our stuff on our platform. It's just so it's the fact that they got people to cheer for this stuff is still wild to me.
You know what is wild as well? Patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. You can go there to be part of the show with your questions, your comments, your concerns. Of course, you can get the show with the exclusive post show we're doing today, and you can get the show ad free. But guess what, Jack? You didn't go to patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. So let me tell you about our sponsor, Honey. As you all know, Honey has been sponsoring Kind of Funny for a long time. I don't even need to look at the ad, not even because they've done it so long, but because I use Honey all the time. I always tap my Google Chrome. There it is, the little H right there. What Honey is a free web browser extension and installs in like 2 clicks. And what happens is when you go to check out on things like 1-800-Flowers, when you need to buy your mom flowers for Mother's Day is this weekend, everybody, heads up. You can go to sites like that, and then when you check out, Honey drops down and then runs every coupon code that it knows, finds you the best deal, and saves you money. Saved me $20 last night on 1-800-Flowers. Mom, if you're listening, be surprised when you get flowers for $20 cheaper. Honey's awesome. It saves you money. And like I always talk about, if you actually log into the Honey app itself or the extension itself, it'll accrue you Honey coins that you can spend on gift cards that you can redeem for other rewards. If you don't want to log in at all, you could just get the promo codes and be well and good. But don't you want to earn something while you go it? This is when I look at the thing, because I look at the ad. Like I just made up my own ad, but I think I hit all the stuff, right? You imagine you're shopping online. You click the thing, apply the coupons, few seconds. Honey's awesome. We know that. It's found over 17 million members, over $2 billion in savings. If you don't already have Honey, you could be straight up missing out on free savings. It's literally free and installs in a few seconds. And by using it, you'll be doing yourself a solid and supporting this podcast and saving money on your Mother's Day flowers. It's Mother's Day this weekend, everybody. Don't F it up. Of course, we never recommend something we don't use. We use Honey all the time. I used it last night. Right now, you can get Honey for free at joinhoney.com/games. That's joinhoney.com/games. Jason, I'm incredibly excited for my mother to get her flowers, but Mother's Day is still so far away. If I wanted something more immediate, say what came to the mom and grop shops, where would I go?
The official list of upcoming software across each and every platform, as listed by the Kind of Funny Games Daily hosts each and every weekday.
All right, stick to writing, buddy.
Oh man, cold read. Can we edit that? Can I do it?
No.
Can we edit on the live show?
Everybody saw it. You sicken me. Out today, Non-Guns Doppelganger Edition on Xbox One and PC. Chroma quarter neon, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One and PC. Resident Evil Village, PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X, S, Xbox One, PC, and Stadia. Papatura on PC and Mac, The Invisible Hand on PC, Patch Quest on PC, Total Arcade Racing on Switch, Blink Rogues, no platform listed, C14 Dating on Switch, Ninja Epic Adventure on Switch, Super Disc Soccer on Switch, Sweets Swap on Switch, and the YouTube TV app has come to PS5 if you want that. New dates for you. You can get into the closed beta.
Oh, hey, who's having trouble reading now, man?
Oh, did you see me stumble through every game name and every Japanese name before that? Don't, Jason. I am literally throwing the biggest rocks from the smallest glass house. Don't worry.
I love it.
No one on this show listens to it. And Greg really can read well. Hunter's Arena on PS5 and PS4 closed beta May 14th, ladies and gentlemen. Jason, I got a question for you. It comes from Nanobiologist again, who wrote into you wrong. It says, just confirming, I am a nanobiologist with a dual bachelor degree in biology and nanomedicine. Also, nanomachines aren't as machiny as you think. Most are adapted carbons or bubbles. Read my cells, like soap bubbles. That have specific connections on them to interact with the body in specific ways. Nanoscale bots are a long ways away. So there you go. Anyway, so his question.
So that vamp didn't die.
No, that's exactly. He had those things attached to him, and they were just, all they were carbons and bubbles. Anyways, though, Nanobiologist's question for you is this. Jason, you are well known to be the guy with all the inside scoops. Can you please go over your process, maybe even going to the start of your career, regarding how you get all these staff members to trust you with such invaluable information that, if leaked or gotten out there, could possibly result in repercussions at their workplace? How did you get established as this beacon for game developers to go to with this information?
I mean, I don't know. That's a tough question to answer. I don't really. It's not like you like suddenly snap your fingers or like push a button. It's very much like a long and gradual process of like talking to people and meeting people and hopefully gaining their trust and trying not to do a disservice when telling their stories, like trying to tell their stories in a way that is empathetic and fair and honest and accurate. Not necessarily that like all people will always love, but that they'll always respect as like, okay, like I didn't love the way that story was handled, but it was fair and accurate, so I can't really get mad at it. And yeah, it's just like a combination of stuff. But like, actually, I mean, it's so funny. Like people always say to me, or like I got this question the other day, like, are people just telling you things about unannounced games? Like, how do you know all this stuff about unannounced games? And I'm like, I don't really know that much. Like Greg Miller probably knows more than I do about unannounced games. I'm not like going around and like asking people about that stuff. And I don't really want to. It just like, I'm talking to a lot of people who make games regularly for stories and stuff, or like just to catch up with people. And I know a lot of people and talk to them. And sometimes like things will come up where it'll be like, oh, I heard about this thing that you should know about. But like, it's not like I'm going up to people at I don't know, Naughty Dog or whatever, and be like, so what are you guys working on? Like, it's just,
anything going on over there? Any problems?
Yeah,
what's happening?
like,
where are we going?
Maybe every once in a while, if I'm like trying to, any problems, I mean, that's a different question than like, what are you working on? Any problems is very different. That is something that I'll talk to people about. But like, it's not like every once in a while, if I'm trying to confirm something, some scoop I'm working on or something, I'll ask a bunch of people about it. But like, it's not like I make a habit. Yeah, I do make a habit. No, it's not like I make a habit of like going around and being like, so what are the hot new I don't know, Sony Santa Monica games? Like I'm not just like going around and doing that. But I am interested in asking what people's problems are and like what sorts of stories they think should be told. But I'm so much more interested in like stories than I am in leaks and unannounced stuff. Like breaking news is great, but
it was what, like the last time is such a weird thing now. Year and a half, maybe even 2 years, but I'm stretching there, where you had done like a Twitter thread about like, I know plenty of stuff off that like is about that it could leak, but what do you care if this company's working on Game X? It's more about what's happening at that company or the people.
Right. Yeah. It's more in service of the larger story. And it's like I used to always have the mentality of like, and I still kind of have like some remnants of that, but I used to have the mentality of like a reporter's job is to tell people everything and they should be reporting everything they possibly can. And to some extent I still feel that way, but like because the video game industry is so secretive and because it like seems to really hurt people for some reason when stuff gets leaked out and like unannounced stuff is talked about, it's I am certainly judicious when it comes to that stuff. And I'm just way more, I'm not really interested in like telling people. There's nothing super satisfying to me. There's nothing really, there's not a lot satisfying to me about talking about something, reporting something that you're all going to find out anyway. Like the thing that is valuable to me, the stuff that really gives my life meaning is telling stories that like if not for me those stories would not be out there. And that's why I love writing books and like doing stuff like Press Reset, which comes out May 11th at your local bookstore.
Kindoffunny.com/Jason.
Yeah, because it's like without like a lot of these stories have not been told before, or like a lot of these people have not been profiled before and spotlighted before. And to me, that's what's really interesting and gratifying about being a reporter. Like, okay, cool. It's fine to be like once in a while I'll have to be like, yeah, it's true. The new Assassin's Creed is whatever. It's set in whatever place. But like that to me is not nearly as gratifying as doing the real work of reporting. And I think that's so much more important.
100%. I understand that. That's I think a good stance to have. And I would think you would know better than me, but in terms of watching your career, right? I think, how did you get established? You got established by doing the work. I feel like that's how people learn to come to you, right? Is that the more stuff you did, the more things you reported on that were in a similar vein brought more people to you to talk about those things, which then, increases your credibility.
Yeah, I think that like doing the work, luck is a humongous part of it. I think like any successful person who tells who is talking about how they got their success, like has to acknowledge the benefits of luck and like the amount of luck I've had and the amount of privilege I have. Like when I started my freelance career, I got so lucky in that I found this gig that was like doing this random copy editing gig that essentially was paying me $500 a week for like what took me 5 hours to do. And because I had that like safety net in place, I was able to go out and freelance and like be making way less than that from pitching articles to gaming sites and stuff and pitching reviews. And just because like having that, I mean, really, everyone should have a social safety net, but that's a whole nother conversation. Being lucky enough to have that like helped me start my career, and being lucky enough to like get picked out of a giant pool of applicants for like a job at Wired, and then being lucky enough to get a chance to like meet with Steven Gisolo, who hired me at Kotaku, and then being lucky enough that like at Kotaku we were able to set up I was able to have resources and like set up an infrastructure where I could really do like reporting that I was proud of, and be lucky enough to have all these smart and talented colleagues who I worked with, and all this other stuff. There's just so much friggin' luck to it that I think it has to be mentioned as well.
Good. Kindoffunny.com/Jason. Go get Press Reset out on Tuesday. You get it at your local bookstores too and stuff like that. We're going to talk about it even more in the post show. But for now, of course, let me wind you down. This has been Kind of Funny Games Daily. We have Know Your Wrongs because we knocked him out about nanobiologist as we went and his credentials. The No Squad up for the weekend, so just enjoy yourself. Play video games with your real friends. Then here we go for next week's hosts. You're going to get a somewhat normal week for Kind of Funny Games Daily next week. Monday, it'll be Blessing and Tim. Tuesday, it will be me and Gary Whitta. Wednesday, it will be me and Janet Garcia. Thursday, it'll be me and Tim Geddes. And then Friday, Blessing and Tim take you home 1 week from today. If you're watching live on twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames, remember it is SnowBikeMike's birthday. We are doing the Sub-a-thon. If you miss it, you can go to youtube.com/kindoffunnyplays. Catch up with it there. On top of that, while we are live, the Kind of Funny Vids Twitter account put up a post here. Kevin, if you can throw it up, it is what's going on for the Platinum tier this month on patreon.com/kindoffunny and patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. If you support Kind of Funny at the Platinum tier on patreon.com/kindoffunny or patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, this month's Platinum reward by Rain is going to get you hyped for Mario Golf. You can see it there. It's the Kind of Funny crew made up to be the Mario Golf characters, which is fantastic. And you bet your ass I'm dry bones. All right.
Amazing.
I'm always dry, baby.
I want to see you guys do a Mario Golf level like you did for Hitman. I want to see you guys do levels in every single game.
Your mouth to God's ears. All right, come on now, Nintendo. You want me to make a Mario Golf letter? You hit me, or letter. Damn, words are hard today.
It's one of those days. It's one of those Fridays. You just like,
where's out of gas? You've been on a book tour.
Oh my God, I've talked so much this week.
Like you're still talking more. We have the patreon.com/kindoffunnygames post show. We're gonna talk more about Press Reset. Again, you can pick it up Tuesday. You can get it at kindoffunny.com/Jason or your local bookstore. Get out there and get it. Jason, is there anything else to promote before we say goodbye to the wide audience?
Yeah, I mean, if you enjoyed hearing me mispronounce words on this show, you will probably enjoy hearing me mispronounce words on the Triple Click podcast, which I do with my old colleagues Kirk Hamilton and Maddie Myers, and we love doing our little show. It's very fun. I think we have a pretty good intersection of our fans and Kind of Funny's fans, and also Min-Max fans. I feel like we all have a lot of a good intersection of people. So yeah, go check it out. Triple Click podcast, wherever podcasts are found.
Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, remember this is Kind of Funny Games Daily each and every weekday on a variety of platforms. Damn, we run you through the nerdy video game news you need to know about. You can get it at youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames, podcast services around the globe each and every weekday. We got a post show to do. So until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.